And now we come to a very special part of our Healthy Workplaces Summit, dedicated to our much-loved colleague, Dr. Eusebio Rial González. Seb was a very special person to all of us who had the pleasure and joy of working with him here in the agency. And by all accounts, he was a very special person in the wider world of occupational safety and health. I am particularly delighted today to welcome members of Seb's family and his friends here to this summit in Bilbao. They have come from his hometown of Vigo in Galicia and beyond. And we're glad to have you here today so that together we can look back a little bit at his life, we can contemplate his legacy, and we can celebrate his achievements. First, I'd like you to sit back, take a moment, and watch a short video commemorating some moments of his life, compiled, I have to say, with much love by his friends and colleagues here in the Bilbao agency.
Dr. Eusebio Rial González obtained his first degree in philology in his native Galicia in 1989 and a second degree in psychology at the University of Nottingham in 1996, which was quickly followed by a doctorate in applied psychology in 1999. Seb continued his career at the University of Nottingham as a lecturer and researcher and consultant specialising in the psychosocial work environment. One of his clients at this time was the European Agency for Safety and Health at Work, providing research expertise to the agency's topic centre, Good Practice on Stress. He co-authored the agency's first report on work-related stress, which, more than 10 years later, is still one of the agency's most downloaded publications.
The problem with stress, defined, most people agree on a definition that refers to an imbalance between the demands that your job places on you and the resources, the abilities you have to cope with those demands. So when your perception is that the demands placed on you are heavier than the resources you have to cope with them, that's the feeling of stress. And when that persists over time, that's when it becomes dangerous.
His European engagement was not just restricted to his work in the topic centre. His peers in the European Academy of Occupational Health Psychology, where he was treasurer, remember him as one of their most creative and innovative members. To honour his life and work, the Academy, in collaboration with EU-OSHA, is launching the Eusebio Rial González Innovation and Practice Award in Occupational Health Psychology. In 2003, the agency had the good fortune to recruit him as a project manager. Subsequently, as head of its Prevention and Research Unit, Seb was the architect of the agency's Healthy Workplaces Manage Stress campaign, while his other achievements include the design and launch of the ESNA survey, the OIRA risk assessment tool, and the setting up of the OSH wiki.
Y el cometido fundamental de la agencia es recabar toda la información técnica, científica, estadística que existe sobre seguridad e higiene en el trabajo y analizarla, darle un valor añadido europeo y difundirla a todos los países, Estados miembros, fundamentalmente a través de nuestro sitio web.
Seb's passion for knowledge, powers of observation, and insights into the human condition made him a truly great communicator. For Seb, communication seemed to come naturally. In fact, Seb's desire to communicate made him an enthusiastic early adopter of the latest innovations in communication technologies, which he then happily applied to communicating occupational safety and health. Seb was a dedicated follower of Bruce Springsteen, and he presented the boss's 40-year career as an inspiration for the agency's next campaign, Healthy Workplaces for All Ages, with its focus on promoting a sustainable working life as well as managing the challenges of an aging workforce.
Thank you for sharing that moment with us all here in Bilbao today to commemorate our much-loved colleague, Seb. And now to look at his legacy, I would like to welcome Professor Tom Cox, CBE, Professor of Occupational Health Psychology and Management, and Director of the Centre for Sustainable Working Life, Birkbeck, University of London. Professor Cox was Seb's long-standing mentor and friend at the University of Nottingham. On his retirement from Nottingham, Professor Cox established the Centre for Sustainable Working Life, and he continues a distinguished academic career. He is the founding editor of the journal Work and Stress and the founding president of the European Academy for Occupational Health Psychology. When I asked Professor Cox what he likes to do in his own downtime to truly relax, he said 2 words: 4 grandchildren. He added, when they aren't occupying all his time, sports and gardening. So thank you, Professor Cox, for taking the floor.
Ladies and gentlemen, colleagues and friends, I would like to start by thanking the European Agency and its partners for inviting me here today to present this eulogy to Eusebio Rial González. It is indeed an honor, although it is one tinged with sadness. Over the last 2 decades, we have seen many years of research on work-related stress transformed into a platform for change in both policy and practice. And this has occurred not only in Europe, but across other regions of the world, both developed and developing. This metamorphosis has been that of a subject of academic interest emerging into something of great societal importance. It has provided us with the means of ensuring healthier work, healthier workplaces, and healthier work organizations. And by these means, we are now better able to protect and promote the health of working people. So, how has this come about? To my mind, there have been 3 things that together have facilitated this metamorphosis. First, collectively, we have managed to move the focus of concern here away from a medical or clinical related framework. Together, we have repositioned it in the center ground of contemporary health and safety management. This move is important because it has empowered both employers and their employees and those who advise, represent, and support them. It has empowered them to feel more competent and more confident in dealing with the challenge of work-related stress. We have made it an essential part of the day-to-day management and the realpolitik of work. Second, the development of the concept of psychosocial risks to employee health and safety, and associated with this, the application of the risk management paradigm has greatly advanced and strengthened our ability to understand and deal with such challenges. Now, third, but not least, this process of metamorphosis could not have occurred without the insight, the belief, and unwavering commitment of a number of key players in Europe and elsewhere. Without their perseverance, often in the face of great hostility, as many of you will know, we would not have been where we are today. This is their legacy, and I count Eusebio Rial González, our Seb, among their number. Their legacy is his legacy, and although sadly he is no longer with us, we must never forget his contribution to the improvement of our working lives and also of those of generations to come, and not just here in Europe. We are here today in the context of the agency's work towards healthier workplaces, to reflect on and honour Seb's contribution to that work. From the video, we know of his roles in developing ESNA, in Aura, and in setting up OSHWiki. These have been explained in the video. However, these are only some of his achievements. His colleagues and his friends know that we can add to these that of him being a well-loved and well-respected and wise colleague, someone of great social and communication skill, someone with a vibrant sense of humor and of fun, and someone who was inexhaustible in his goodwill to others. Now, this so far is the most recent part of the history of Seb. So please indulge me as I now try to provide you with some insight into his earlier years, years that I was fortunate enough to share with him in Nottingham. Seb came to the then Department of Psychology at the University of Nottingham in the mid-1990s, when I was its head. He came with an excellent degree in philology from the University of Santiago de Compostela and with teaching experience in Britain. He studied psychology with us, and two things became immediately obvious. First, that he was an excellent student, honestly destined for academic success. And second, possibly a little more irritating at times, and second, he had a much better grasp of the use of English, far better than many other students and staff, regardless of where they came from, including Britain. Being Welsh, I might actually say England there, but whatever. He was also committed to the proper use of English, and I'm sure that many who have worked with him will have experienced this commitment in practice. He achieved a first-class honours degree without apparent difficulty, and then joined my research team, also enrolling for his doctorate in psychology, his PhD. Needless to say, by the year 2000, he was awarded his doctorate, again without apparent difficulty. And he had achieved this while working full-time in research. His thesis left his external examiners, the good and the true, Professors Taya Christensen and David Clark, without any grounds whatsoever for criticism, constructive or otherwise, just full of praise, and we were all very proud of him at that time, at that moment. The early 2000s were a time of great progress for us at Nottingham, and it is absolutely true to say that such progress would not have been possible or successful without Seb and his tireless contribution. We had a small but outstanding team of early career academics, and at the heart of that team was Seb being Seb, informed, sensible, socially skilled, and always supportive and committed. Together, as you've heard, we founded the European Academy of Occupational Health Psychology and managed it through its early days. It survived and flourished and is still flourishing, and is most appropriate that it now, with the agency, is recognizing Seb's contribution through a special named award in his honor. We took the Academy project on beyond Europe, and working with the APA and NIOSH in the USA, and with the international journals Work and Stress and JOHP, Journal of Occupational Health Psychology, we established the International Coordinating Committee for Occupational Health Psychology. And when Seb moved away from Nottingham to the agency, he continued in his support of the Academy, for which it will be forever grateful. As applied psychologists, we, like many others of our ilk, began to sense that traditional departments of psychology rarely valued our work, and there just might be better homes for us. Were there? Seb and I were unsure, and so we built our own better place, the Institute of Work, Health and Organizations. Now, this was not an easy thing to do within a very large and traditional university, and to establish its reputation further afield was challenging. Two things helped us, and Seb was centrally involved in both, particularly the second. The first was gaining the support of the World Health Organization, and the second was becoming involved at the outset with the European agency. The WHO designated the Institute as a collaborating centre in occupational health, and it was, at the time, the only one staffed solely by applied psychologists. The agency gave us the task of running the first topic centre for good practice in health and safety at work. I say us here, but really, as you can imagine, the day-to-day work of the topic centre was planned and expertly conducted by Seb. And I know how much he impressed everybody then associated with the agency. So much so that I lost him to the agency. And in 2003, as you've heard, and as we say in English, the poacher turned gamekeeper. Sharing a confidence now, which I've not often shared before, I had plans just before then to change the traditionally based governance structure of the Institute. I wanted it to be jointly run by an academic director and an executive director. And of course, Seb was to be my executive director. However, the call of his Spanish homeland, Galicia, and his family and of the agency proved too strong, and I lost him. In those early days of his career, Seb helped develop the concept of psychosocial risk and promote the value of the risk management approach to dealing with it. He also helped develop the new interdiscipline of occupational health psychology and scaffold it here in Europe through the Academy. He helped me develop the Institute at Nottingham and its contribution in the area of work-related stress. Last, but again not least, he was part of the early development of the agency and its Topic Centre programme. You know, even without his later contribution through his work for the agency, these early achievements alone would mark Seb out as something special. In those early years, 2000 to 2003, together we published some 8 or more papers, monographs and research reports on work-related stress, psychosocial risks and risk management. To my mind, the two most influential were a paper in Work and Stress in 2000 that attempted to define occupational health psychology, not only as a new interdiscipline, but one which was based in Europe, taking a European perspective. And in the same year, our review for the agency of research on work-related stress was published. This outlined the basis and the principles of a risk management approach to psychosocial risks. And as mentioned in the video, the review is still among the most downloaded of all agency publications. It is hugely cited in the literature and has been translated into most European languages, and I would say a few non-European ones as well, including American. Thank you, Seb. I think he was probably the only one who laughed. My memories of Seb, however, are not all just about his contribution to our area, but also more personal and fun. And Seb, as his friends and colleagues know, was very good at fun. We all travelled much during those Nottingham years, not only in Europe, but also across the globe. One such trip will forever stick in my mind. In 2001, I was invited to go to Santiago de Chile to talk to the Institute of Health, the Minister of Health, and the Department of Labour. It's common knowledge that I have absolutely no fluency in Spanish, and so I naturally invited Seb to come with me, and he did. Reflecting back, I'm not sure how effective we were in laying the seeds of change in Chile, but beyond that, 3 things remain with me. First, you may wonder where this is going, how large and cheap scallops were in Santiago de Chile, and how much, and this was the discovery, we both loved them, and looking back how much we feasted on them, leading us both to health-crippling overindulgence. But scallops, this love of scallops, was not the only bonding experience that we shared. I vividly remember, in fact, I tend to wake up in the middle of the night remembering, being driven by a Chilean taxi driver through the Santiago rush hour. I was in the front in the passenger seat, Seb was in the back. We were driven at great speed by a driver who was at the same time smoking and also becoming very emotional on his mobile phone over his divorce. One might say these are part and parcel of the risks, psychosocial and otherwise, of being a travelling academic. I think not. But there were 6 lanes, crowded lanes of fast-moving traffic in this part of Santiago. 3 in one direction, 3 in the other. And we were in our own 4th lane. Weaving in and out distractedly between the oncoming cars, buses and lorries, who were giving no quarter whatsoever. An excess of scallops was quickly worked off, and I just don't believe the scientific literature which says fear does not promote weight loss. We survived together. It was the only time in all the years I've known Seb, both at Nottingham and later here in the agency, when I found him speechless. And white. Finally, on our way home via Madrid, Seb used all his social and persuasive skills and his imagination, with a twinkle in his eye, to get us upgraded from economy to first class. He suggested to the airline team, in a most concerned way, that there might have just been a mistake in our booking. He was not worried. Of course he wasn't. He was being good to them. But the airline team should know that I was the famous, and I'm not quite sure what he said because I don't speak Spanish, but he had told me to stand still, not say anything, and try and look important. Part of his helping them to correct a mistake was to point out that the day before, by invitation, we'd met and talked with the Minister of Health. And the evidence was a huge photograph in the main Santiago newspaper. This sort of galvanized them slightly, and we were immediately upgraded with lots of smiles and lots of handshaking. Thanks, Seb. One of the few times I've traveled first class, and I can remember it's quite a long journey, as you can appreciate, from Santiago to Madrid. While Seb slept pleasantly next door to me, I played with the technology. I have other very good memories of Seb that stand alongside his achievements in the areas of work-related stress, occupational health psychology, and good practice in the management of health and safety at work. Without doubt, he has played a key role in all of these areas, and this is his public legacy. But for me and colleagues and friends and family, he was and always will be Seb, greatly respected and now sadly greatly missed. Indeed, he was a good and great person. Gone now, but not and never to be forgotten. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Cox. And now I would like to invite Krista to come to the podium, please, along with Sergio. Yavikole to the stage to make a very big announcement, and indeed, as today, an award is being established, which was mentioned earlier. Krista, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. First of all, thank you very much to all our participants here, ministers, Secretary of State, then representative trade unions and employers representatives. And of course, special thanks to you, Tom. I knew Seb also, you mentioned the first time when starting the Topic Center, and he was really very helpful, because I have to admit, now I'm allowed to admit, but in the first phase of Topic Center, we didn't really know where to go, in which direction, and therefore Seb was very helpful. I think he helped a lot that we then could start the Topic Centers. Now we are here. I'm here together with Sergio Yavikole. He's president of the European Academy for Occupational Health Psychology, and I'm, as a director of EU-OSHA, we would like to announce, and it was mentioned before, an award in memoriam of Eusebio Rial González. It's the Eusebio Rial González Innovation and Practice Award in Occupational Health and Psychology. And I have to say, I think it was also Tom, it was Sergio, but also Stavroula, a former colleague of the Nottingham University. They wrote shortly after Seb passed away an email to the agency, to me, and proposed to honor the work and the life of Seb, but also to keep the memory alive, because the proposal was a biannual award. And my immediate reaction, of course, and I think also the management and all staff members, the immediate reaction was, yes, wonderful idea, we should go for it. And it's not only very much appreciated by agency staff, many of them friends of Seb, but also our board members appreciate it very much, and many colleagues and partners, we are working at European and national level. So therefore, we both would like to announce it. I would immediately hand over to Sergio. It will be, as I said, a biannual award, and the launch of this award will be during the next conference of the Academy in Athens, and it will be in April 2016. Now I would like to hand over to Sergio to get bit more details.
Thank you, Krista, for this opportunity to contribute to remember Seb. Many things have been said, and Seb will be reminded as a great communicator, a great researcher, and a distinguished professional in occupational health. But before anything else, I think summarizing what has been said, we have to recognize that, first of all, Seb was an innovator. One of those action-oriented innovators that contributed to things become a reality. So outputs of his work are used on an everyday life for many OSH professionals and stakeholders, and will be used for a long time. So it is for this specific reason that I'm honored to contribute to with the Academy to celebrate his life, his work, and his legacy. And that is why the award is called the Eusebio Rial González Innovation and Practice Award in Occupational Health Psychology. As Krista mentioned, this will be launched in our forthcoming academic biannual conference, which will be held from April 11 to April 13 in Athens. And to learn more about the information about the award, how to apply, you can check both the agency and the Academy website. Application will be open until February the 1st, so there's time to help and contribute in disseminating this award, which will be open to occupational health and psychology researcher or practitioner who contributed with their work to considerable innovation in the field of occupational health and psychology. So please help in disseminating this information, and thank you again for this opportunity.
So, ladies and gentlemen, we've been very moved by this last session, as Seb was such a wonderful friend, and he is very much missed by me and by my colleagues and friends here in Bilbao. Thank you for taking part in this very important memorial. Now, I have a few important practical announcements for you before we take a break. We're going to move into a break now, and it's very important that you grab your coffee and move to the parallel workshops, or parallel sessions rather, which will start at 4:15 and not at 4 as indicated on the programme, 4:15. So before you go, a few little things you should know. Parallel session 1 will be web streamed. Parallel session 1 and 2 have both got interpretation, so if you have your headphones, keep them with you. For those of you going to parallel session 3, give your headphones back. And do give them back. We will follow you. We know where you live. We will track you down. What is happening later tonight, I hear you ask? Are you curious? Well, I am too. There is something going on. There is something organized, because there's a lot of little whispers in the corridor. Problem is, they don't tell me anything around here. I'm just the messenger. So here's what's really important. The buses will collect you at the Carlton Hotel and at the NH Villa de Bilbao Hotel at 7 o'clock sharp, 19 hours, 7 o'clock p.m. Be ready. All will be revealed and fun will be had. Finally, for those of you who spoke at this session, please, immediately when we're finished, come to room A3, because we need you there to have a group photo. So now, everyone, please go and get your coffee, but be in your parallel session at 4:15 and enjoy. Thank you.